I'm JR Todd, and you're watching Everything Nitro.
What is going on, race fans? Welcome back to this week's live Circle K 4-Wide Nationals preview, coming to you from our house, man. We're not in Charlotte or anything. We're just from one week to another, we're talking drag racing. So thank you for everybody for joining us. We don't have the regular John Randall in today. John's traveling. He's busy, but we got the NHRA insider, the man. If you haven't heard his name, you need to know about this guy, Dujunnea Bland. What's going on, Dujunnea?
What's going on, man? It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been stoked about this all day.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we're going to really dive into it here. Coming off from going into the second week in a row, nonstop drag racing, but we'll let a couple of people get in the chat here, but we're going to be doing a giveaway tonight. We're going to give away a Kenny Bernstein 124 scale die cast. So we'll talk more about it in the show, but you guys that are already in the show, we'll get you in on it now. Put in the comment section, hashtag Everything Nitro giveaway for your chance to win this diecast. You don't got to pay me anything. You don't have to pay nothing. You just put the hashtag. We'll randomly select a winner. I don't know if we'll select it during the show or we'll, depending on how many entries, we'll announce it tomorrow. But hashtag Everything Nitro giveaway for your chance to win a 1999 Kenny Bernstein Louis the Lizard diecast. I don't know how many of you guys remember that. But let's get right into it, Dujunnea, man. We had some news this morning break. And before we start talking about it, let's just show the fans here. If you haven't already known, you haven't already seen, check this out.
So what are we doing here?
I don't know, man. I got the same text as you.
Well, I'm ready to get out of here.
About time.
You got room for one more?
Well, finally, Toyota announced today that Ron Capps will be fielding that Toyota GR Supra, that beautiful body, at this weekend's 4-Wide Nationals at zMAX Dragway. I mean, Dujunnea, did we see this coming or not? I'm sure everybody saw this coming by now after what happened in Pomona and things that have happened afterwards, but this is exciting, man.
I did. I'm just going to say that I did, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm excited for Ron Capps. That thing is sexy. I mean,
it is.
The Napa, the paint job on the side, the black pipes, that is one sexy Supra. And, I'm really happy for Ron Capps to be represented the way that he deserves. I mean, this guy has done everything, scratched, clawed, and done everything that he's needed to do to get to where he is. Now he's a champion. And
not only is he a champion, but he's the most recent winner.
Exactly.
And that newly formed Ron Capps Motorsports. So this is big for Capps. I don't think there's been this much hype around Ron Capps going into a season. I mean, this is insane. But one thing that kind of is a little bit of a concern here, we know who the top three dogs are in Funny Car right now. Matt Hagan, Robert Hight, and Ron Capps. Now, those three guys, those other two guys aren't going to be switching bodies. So I wonder if we're going to see a performance fallout or, what's going to give with this Toyota body. We haven't seen the best performance and consistency out of JR Todd and Alexis DeJoria so far in their season. But to touch back on what you were saying about how good this car is, man, I hate to say it, but I think it's the best looking Supra of the three so far.
I am not going to disagree with you. Maybe I'm partial to the blue, and I guess my wife would say that I would go for either JR's or the blue, but they all look good. But Jesus, that, like I said, ooh wee.
Ooh, is right, and you have to think who's going to grab that first GR Toyota Supra win now. You add a tough competitor like Ron Capps into the mix. Last week we were talking about who's going to grab it first between Alexis and JR. Because that's bragging rights on the line right there. Absolutely. Now you add Ron Capps into the mix, one of the best drivers on the circuit. So it'll be interesting to see if we see a little bit of Toyota rivalry moving forward this season.
This is my thing, and this is what I thought about initially once this all was official. The two Toyotas have staggered. They've staggered around a little bit. JR, I don't think what we saw last week indicates that there's any significant movement forward, but they did take some more steps forward in becoming more consistent. When you look at the brain trust that Ron Capps has, I think if anyone can figure it out, it can be them. This is a great time to debut it right here at the 4 Wide Nationals. Allows you to get 4 passes down the racetrack to get some data. If you don't go rounds, it's not that big a deal. It's not going to take them out of the contention or make them seem any less than or whatever. But I think this is the prime time to do it. Most people would call it, and some of these racers, Steve Torrance, would call this a throwaway. They don't like it very much. But this is the time to do it where you can kind of gather some data, then you'll have a week, and then you'll go into another race. So I think this is good. I think Virginia's that next race. So I think this is good for him. If they can come out and qualify, the weather conditions are going to be, from what we can see right now, are going to be pristine for likely some low ETs. We likely will see the lowest, I think we'll see the lowest top fuel qualifying ladder that we've seen ever. With the conditions. So I'm okay with it. But there is a concern because we've seen what the other Toyotas have done, and it hasn't been very consistent. We'll just say that. Right.
And the other team has the firepower. I mean, Alexis DeJoria with Nicky Bonifani and Del Warsham, they could snatch up and grab a win. I mean, they've had a couple of semifinals appearances this season, as had J.R. Todd. So this is just another element of drag racing and NHRA drag racing that we love to see. Just newness in the sport. For Ron Capps, this has to be a monkey off his shoulder. I mean, how many people have heard these rumors over the past few months? And when Alexis hurt that body last weekend, I thought, oh man, I hope that doesn't delay any Ron Capps, Ron Capps rumors, but it didn't. And obviously he's ready to go. But he's going to be one that all the fans will be watching come Friday qualifying tomorrow. Actually, can you believe 1 week to another? We love these back-to-back races, by the way.
It makes for a lot of work for us, but it's great to get into a rhythm, get lathered up, so to speak, as we say in football in the trenches, get lathered up and start to put together some back-to-back races so we can see these guys and gals carry their consistency that they have had an opportunity to gather from the last race.
And I'm all for this comment right here. Diecast for the Supra, when? As soon as it comes out, Drag Race Central, we got to have them, right? Absolutely. All you diecast fans out there. And again, I've mentioned during the show, drop a hashtag Everything Nitro giveaway in the comments section for your chance to win a Top Fuel Dragster diecast of Kenny Bernstein. So who doesn't want a Kenny Bernstein diecast? Yeah, I mean, come on now. Now let's move on to this next guy, this next topic in Funny Car. Can anybody beat this guy right here, Matt Hagan? This guy has been to all the final rounds this year, except for Pomona. Give it Pomona. He had a semifinals appearance, but come on, who could beat this guy? This guy's been in every final since then.
Yeah. Right now, he's about, if I'm gathering correctly, he is 25-8 over the last 12 races. This is dating back to the last 7 of the 2021 countdown season. He now has 2 wins, 2 runner-ups, and 1 semifinal. He is he's gapped the field a little bit. He's got a 60-point lead there in first, and this car is running strong and representing Power Brokers quite well.
And he really hasn't succumbed to any of the pressure of Tony Stewart Racing as of yet. We all know the story. You know, he brought his car, Dickie Venables, that firepower over team, and even paid those guys out of his own pocket to keep them. So he's done his work when it comes to keeping those guys intact. We always talk about Tim Wilkerson, Tasca, Pedregon. There's so many other. I mean, this is a stacked funny car field, and it's as competitive as it's ever been. And we got to remember, there is a countdown at the end of this. So nobody's running away with any championship right now. But those three guys stick out to you: Hagan, Hart, Caps. But Matt Hagan, man. I don't know how many. I don't know if I've mentioned this or if I've skipped out on it, but this guy is hands down the best driver of this era we're in now in funny car. I mean, hands down. I heard WFO Joe the other day ask Hagan, "Hey, I noticed a car straight as an arrow right down the groove. What's that about? Like, what causes that? The driver causes that. When it comes to staging that car, once that body's down, it's all in the driver's hands." How many times have we seen Matt Hagan hit a wall, cross the center line, blow up a body, and still keep the car in his lane throughout all that? This guy manhandles a funny car. So he's not only tough up here mentally, but behind that driver's seat, he's the best in the business, and I'd put that against anybody.
And I think we got to give Tony Stewart some credit. The way he operates, I think people have a perception of him, and that's not – the perception is not everything. He came into this thing, really understanding what he was getting into. And Matt, when we interviewed him in Gainesville, talked about, just how he's just, all over everything, really taking it in, but it's a relaxed atmosphere. And the fact that he brought up as well, that he doesn't have any drama in his life. He's super comfortable. And to me, a very comfortable, happy, jovial, joking, Matt Hagan is a dangerous one.
Right. And especially when you add Dickie Venables to the mix. Dickie has a lot, on his mind going, especially losing his father here recently. We all knew that last win in Houston was dedicated to Dickie's father, Dick Sr. So a lot rides on that team, and Hagan said it himself, on the NotBlandShow. He said that on a recent episode of Nitro Talk. When he comes back, after a runner-up championship finish, I mean, he's out for it. I mean, he's gunning for that championship. So if Vegas had odds on Matt Hagan right now winning a championship, I'd put some money on that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this other funny, all these other guys and cats in the funny car field, man. Like, who can we really see step up? Because we haven't seen so much of it yet. We've seen the same three drivers in the semis and final round. So something's got to give, right? We got to see some more competition out of these drivers.
Well, I talked about it a little bit on the show yesterday on Ghostcast. I'm gonna tell you, I've got about three, and when you look at the list, first and foremost, I'm looking at Blake Alexander. I think what he's done over the last couple of races that they've appeared in, it has, it's kind of understated a little bit. Obviously, they were able to go all the way to the final round against Matt Hagan in Gainesville. They had a second round exit in Vegas, and they went out to a really good Chad Green car there in Houston. But I think they are right where they need to be. You know how Jim Head runs everything. He's very consistent and meticulous. And Blake Alexander is a heck of a driver. Another one, you have him up there running alongside Matt Hagan is Robert Hart. I don't think we can discount what he's done. I know statistics and history has shown that they've started fast and they tend to fall off a little bit. They're still there. They're still there and running pretty strong and doing one heck of a job of trying to keep up with the other two in Ron Capps and Matt Hagan. Lastly, though, is that Snap-on Tools, Makers, Fixers, Dodge Funny Car, and Cruz Pedregon. And I've said it from the beginning of the season until now. They just go out and they do the job. They are very consistent and meticulous. They have a number. They're running that very well. And in this hot weather, when we start to heat up a little bit, those are the guys that usually win. Because why? They have very control of their horsepower, very well control of their horsepower. They're running very consistent numbers and doing it with ease. These guys that have all that horsepower have to take an opportunity to try to rein that back. Not necessarily with that Snap-on Tools team. The only thing I need from Cruz is I need him to step up on the tree. That's all. Get more consistent on the tree. And there's a lot of these races that, to me, they had one of the better cars in Houston last week. May not, but could have, with the consistency and how they run in the heat, could have won that race. Just need more consistency from the lights and the tree from Cruz. Those are my picks of who I think could contest with Hagan, because at the end of the day, they've run pretty good, and he did a good job in the heat in Houston. But can we do that consistently? And I don't think anybody's more consistent than that Snap-on Tools funny car.
And when you touch on Cruz back in Houston, it really brought to my mind, that second round matchup with Bobby Bodie. Straight just underestimated that other driver and team. And we've seen times, especially when, Cruz will try to light that top bulb and it throws him off. He's lost quite a bit of races that way. And last weekend, it was just the tune-up. The tune-up lost that race. And it was so strange to see everybody kind of slow it down when they heard Bobby Bodie was in that other lane. We saw it from Hagan in that final round. We saw it. Alexis hit the wall in the first round, so she was really out of it at the 100-foot mark. But we saw it in Cruz as well, and that totally threw me by surprise, because that kid Bobby Bodie can step up and make a number. Heat, overcast, night. That car is a great, consistent car, and we saw it this past weekend. You don't make a final round in funny car due to pure luck. And I liked how you touched on Blake Alexander. He's another guy we saw back in Gainesville go rounds and pretty much show the rest of the field that, hey, although we've missed some time and we may not be the most consistent out here, we can get the job done on Sunday. And I really like kind of what Bob Tasca being under the radar, in my opinion.
He is.
We really don't hear much about him as much as we did last season, which is kind of a surprise because he still has Justin Schaefer and Mike Neff. And those are a couple of guys that don't let off the pedal. Those guys know how to tune a race car and build a race car. We know personnel is everything. We know chemistry is everything. And they've had some crew member changes over the past season and off season. So I think this could be a weekend for Bob Tasca to step up because he's a great driver. And I mean, who doesn't want to see Ford in the winner's circle?
Right. That's a good one too, because and actually I think the under the radar thing is good for him. Because they came out guns blazing last year, and then they just had times when they needed to really cut the cheese and you've melted it.
Right.
It's just a matter of now you're under the radar. Maybe they're trying some things. Maybe they're pulling a Steve Torrance and they're trying some things as well. I don't think that car is any less than what it was last year. I think it's just a matter of getting consistent. And again, like you said, this is a countdown deal. Doesn't matter if you're hot right now. If you can sustain it, then great. But it's not about how you start this regular season. We're only the second race coming up, the second race in this second quarter of 4 quarters of a regular season. It doesn't matter what you do in the first and second quarter. It's what you do in the third and fourth quarter of this season. Coming into the playoffs is what's going to make the difference for you. And I expect them to pick it up as the season progresses.
And that kind of brings me to our next topic here. Brittany Force, man, can she continue this dominance? I'm not going to call it dominance, but could she continue this consistency and ride this wave? Like you just mentioned, this is regular season, and a lot changes come countdown time. We could say right now drivers are still testing their program, still trying to figure things out. But when it comes to countdown time, guys like Steve Torrance, Doug Coletta, Sean Langdon, they could turn it up and they could turn it on. So can we expect to see this hot streak from Brittany Force here, especially in Charlotte?
I believe so. And here's why. First of all, well, no one's going to doubt that that's the best car on the premises and has been the best car on the premises since the beginning of last year. What Max Savage and David Grubnick do with this car is absolutely amazing. She was aware of what she needed to do as a driver to step up. And this year, she has been right there and has done the job. And the main thing that we talked about, I talked about it and harped on it last season. It was not so much what you do in the first round or the second round, but it's what you need to do in the semifinals and final round. And it was proven this weekend. I mean, you look at what they did last year. She was 32-19 round win-loss record. Probably could have had more wins because of her reaction time. Now you fast forward to this year, and she tattooed Justin Ashley. Fans, are you listening? The Justin Ashley, the guy who's always cutting 30s, 40s in the reaction time, and she tattooed him within a 41. That's what we wanted to see. Semifinal and final rounds. Hey, man, in the second round, she had a 1-0 something, but she stepped up in the semifinal and finals when the rubber meets the road, when the competition gets extremely tough, and she was able to nail it. I believe that with her driving skills and what we've seen over this quarter and almost quarter and a half now of racing, it's going to be very tough to beat her. And now with this win in Houston, to stand on that podium, to have two women standing on that podium and the way that they held up those Wallies, look, I think she has a lot of confidence. You watched Joe's show and you've seen her on some other shows. She's extremely confident right now. That's what was missing last year. And I believe personally, the lack of the reaction times getting worse was in her head. This girl's a champion. Let's not forget that. She's a top fuel champion. So it's not that she can't get it done. She's shown that. But now we're starting to see the maturation process. And I think that she's going to be very tough. And really, to me, is the favorite coming into this four-wide nationals here in Charlotte.
She definitely is. And I'm glad you mentioned her confidence. You know, seasons prior, we've always heard, you know, Brittany's working on the off season to better that reaction time, to be a better driver in the driver's seat. We're seeing so much of it this season, and we haven't heard anything about her off-season routine. Maybe that's a good thing, but Brittany Force, it doesn't seem like she cares at all who's in that other lane. She doesn't care about the round previous of what their lights were. And I'd be really curious to know if she's even looking at those, you know, stats when she gets out of the car round by round. Because we know qualifying, she has the fastest car on the property, no matter how many top field cars show up. And I think with David Grubnick, she's finally getting that in that gel and in that consistency where all I have to do is drive this race car. I don't have to worry about Steve over there. I don't have to worry about Sean Langdon, Justin Ashley. We'll beat those guys. I know I have the car underneath me. Let me just, like you said, do my job. And that's what she's doing. And I love to see her come out and get these wins. I hope she's gearing up and they're loading the guns for a deep championship run because she right now has a great car to do it. And not to mention, she's the second John Force car this season to go double up. I mean, we saw Robert Hight the first two wins. Yes. Now Brittany gets it. So John's probably sitting back thinking, well, I might not be going rounds and in final rounds and all that, but my team cars are doing it. So that's got to give that whole John Force team program a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and to touch on what you said about looking at the reaction times, I honestly think that it was just a matter of it's like a quarterback throwing an interception early. It may be an ill-advised interception. It's one of those things that you and I are watching this guy and you're like, what in the heck were you doing right there? No one was open. You just threw it to the defender. And you go to the sideline, you put it out of your mind, you come back out here and you sling it again. And I don't think she's dwelling on the mistakes. She's aware of them, but not dwelling on them and allowing them to get inside your head and to overthink it. When I talked to her in Gainesville, She said she didn't change anything. She didn't change anything to better her reaction times. And I'm really not surprised by that, because my whole thing was about what she was going through last year. I believe she was getting inside of her own head, understanding that she had a good car and that she just wasn't reacting and driving it the way that her team was performing. And I think she felt bad about that, but she was getting inside of her own head, because she's capable of doing it, and she's showing us that now.
And here's us right to us, Nicole Erickson. She is looking at stats. So there we go, facts. And everybody, if you don't know who Nicole Erickson is, she has an amazing podcast called Women Take the Wheel. I recommend go and check that out. I believe it's on all the platforms, all the podcast platforms. So go and check that out. That's a lot of fun to hear behind the scenes of what it's like to be a woman in motorsports, and she has so many great stories on there. So thanks for chiming in, Nicole.
Right there. That's my homie right there.
And I like this comment here from Drag Race Central. Is Austin Prock living up to the hype? In my opinion, he is. Sure, he doesn't have as many wins as Austin Prock right now. I'm sorry, as Justin Ashley, or he didn't come out, winning like a Josh Hart. But Austin Prock is the guy of the future in my books. This guy, he's not a kid anymore driving a top field dragster, but this is a guy that'll be around the sport for a long time. And I look forward to the day. I mean, we know he wants to drive funny car. We've known, we've seen him walk around the pits with Austin Prock racing hats. This guy's all about marketing, and he's about moving forward. So this is, I mean, we're going to see big things from Prock.
Absolutely. This guy has every bit of it. He's got that $1 million smile. He's very good and very, good as far as marketing is concerned. He kind of reminds me of Justin Ashley. Yes, this is something that I don't see as him being overhyped. The dude lives up to it. He's one heck of a driver. And this weekend, it shows how he gets up on the wheel.
Right.
And he just missed. And sometimes when you're that aggressive on the tree, when you go up there with Paul Bunyan's axe and you look to chop that sucker down, sometimes you get bit. And that's just the nature of drag racing. And that's all we can say about it.
That's for sure. And his very first win came against his own teammate in a pedal fest out in Pomona. That was a lot of fun to see. So this guy is a driver at heart. Just no pun intended. But look out for this guy. But another guy we have to talk about, Josh Hart. And we're going to get to who we think will win, the 4 wides here in Charlotte this weekend. But I absolutely love Josh Hart, what he brings to the table. A businessman, an entrepreneur. I mean, this guy is the real deal. I love Josh Hart. I love everything about Josh Hart. His people, his sponsors. I had never known what R&L Carrier was until he brought them into the sport. Now, every time I'm on the freeway, on business, going out of town, when I see R&L Carriers, I'm thinking Josh Hart. And I actually pinpoint and I look at the trucks, and I just enjoy seeing it down the road. So shout out to Josh Hart, man.
I mean, R&L Carrier's been around a long time, but I'm like, I'm kind of old. So, I had family who were truck drivers, but I thought it was amazing to see something that I grew up, traveling and seeing, him being able to grab that and then bring that to the sport and be able to promote that. And no one is better than Josh Hart. And as she said, he is the real deal. And people think that this is something that just happened overnight. If you follow this guy in A Fuel, from top to bottom, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. He doesn't do anything that isn't up to par, up to snuff, and is professional and a class act. He said this is what he was going to do. It didn't transform or come to fruition the way we thought it would when I had talked to him before he was coming into Top Fuel. But here he is. He's got his own operation, doing a great job with RL Carriers and what he does. His whole entire operation is just second to none. And I don't know. I can't say enough about the guy. He has a soft spot in my heart, man. He's one of those guys that I was able to interview young and early in my career, and I take pride in it.
One thing about Josh Hart, before we move on to the next topic, he's a soft-spoken, genuine guy. If you've ever met him, If you haven't met him, I encourage you, your next national event, to go get an autograph, go get a picture. This guy is one of the most nicest guys around the pit. And one that he really reminds me of in the earlier parts of his career was a Doug Coletta. We've always known Doug Coletta to be a quiet type, humble type. You know, Josh Hart has a lot of that same flair. And although we always want personality out of these drivers, Josh Hart's a guy, I'm okay with him being calm, cool, and collected because he brings it on that starting line for sure.
Absolutely. Be natural is my thing. Be who you are. You don't have to go out here, and we don't need a WWE show unless that's in you. You know what I mean? You got those kind of promos, but be who you're going to be. And, you know, don't try to be somebody you're not. And he never does that. And he's always 100. So love it.
And for all you fans watching, thanks for tuning in. We are doing a diecast giveaway. Kenny Bernstein's 1998 Louis the Lizard diecast. So if you want to get entered for that giveaway, all you got to do is put in the comment section, #EverythingNitro giveaway, and you'll be entered to win this diecast. I got it right here, actually. So if you guys don't believe me, here you go. Louis the Lizard right here.
Yeah,
Could be yours. Could be yours.
I love that one.
So let's get into this, man. This weekend, 18 Top Fuel entries and 16 entries in Funny Car. That's all we could ask for, man. Full fields.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to 4-wide. I know everybody has their opinions about this 4-wide, but you got to love it. It's only a twice-a-year thing. It's kind of like a specialty race, but it does count for points and it does count for money. So let's just call it what it is. But let's take a look at this entry list in Funny Car first. We have our regulars: Cabs, Tasca, Pedregon, Force, Alexis, Robert Height, Tim Wilkerson, Jim Campbell, Matt Hagan, Paul Lee. We have John Bodie Smith riding this weekend from the Heavy Heart, losing, I believe it was Rhonda Hartman Smith's dad recently. So they're going to have a lot on their mind. Dale Creasy Jr. is back behind the seat, and Mike McIntyre Jr. in that Mac Attack Funny Car will be on the property. He's a guy we saw last year come out to the Charlotte race, ran career best DT, got his first ever national event round win. I love seeing this Mac Attack Funny Car.
I do. And they do a really good job when they do come out. And it's always nice to see, all these other cars come out, make an appearance. And a lot of these cars are cars that, can jump up and bite you if you're not prepared. And so because they are, and that's important. I love it. I love this era of drag racing because very few, unlike in my era, and I won't put any names out there, but unlike when I was young, you knew when certain cars were going to come up to the line and we were going to have a break because they were going to oil it down. And these guys come up here and they race their race. They don't do, they're very polished, and they don't come out here and they don't oil the track down. They do their job and they do it well. And I love this era of drag racing when we see these independent cars come up because they have a chance to go rounds too. They can pluck one of these top guys off in the first round real quick if you come in there underestimating who they are.
And also we have Chad Green coming off a semifinals appearance back in Houston a week ago, kind of looking to ride that momentum here this weekend. Another guy, man, we have to keep on our radar. Daniel Wilkerson is slowly becoming the next great tuner. I love everything about Daniel Wilkerson, his family background. Hint, we've been talking about getting him on a Nitro Talk episode. I'm sure he's got a lot. Come on, Tim Wilkerson's son. He was even a driver at one point. Went through one of the most craziest accidents that we've probably ever seen in a Nitro Funny Car. Walked away from it. And Jim Campbell, man, how about Jim Campbell? We're beginning to see Jim kind of get in that groove of consecutive round wins, and I like the confidence that Jim Dunn's showing, in his interviews.
Me too. It's fun to see Jim Dunn in that car go rounds. And it's nice to see Jim Campbell start to get some consistency. It really makes this Funny Car feel really tough. And then we're not just talking about the teams, the bigger teams, or some of the top players, but everybody's in play here. I think we're still seeing what we saw last year, that Funny Car can be anybody's race. I mean, you saw Blake Alexander go to a final in Gainesville. You see Bobby Bodie here just past weekend. It's anybody's race. And I love that. That makes it fun for everyone.
And there we go. Daniel Wilkerson drove back in 2016. I forgot about that. That's what I like about Daniel Wilkerson. He kind of just comes at you'll randomly see his name on an entry list, and he's always done well. But right now, his priority is that Chad Green machine. Let's kind of talk a little bit about Alexis DeJoria, man. Coming off that bit of an impact with the wall last weekend, that's enough to rattle anybody's bell. And when you're going, 250 miles an hour after 200 feet, that's got to hurt. So it'll be interesting to see, what kind of approach they take, on tomorrow's session, first session of the day, because as a driver, anybody will tell you want to get in that car right away. You don't want to take weeks off. So this might benefit her, but she's a car that could come out, grab that number one qualifying spot, make it to a semifinals, final round. So I think she's going to want to put Houston behind her and get off to a real good start this weekend.
Yeah, Alexis is tough, and I don't expect anything different. I think she's gonna be relishing at the opportunity to be able to race this weekend, so she doesn't have to sit and think about it another weekend. But I think she's gonna get up on the wheel and do her thing. And I think that they're going to come out and do what they do and run this car the way that they know that they can. And they've been really the more consistent Supra out of the two between her and JR. And I don't expect them to try to step back or anything like that. I think with the conditions, they're going to run what the conditions give them. They're going to take what the defense is giving them, and they're going to attack. I don't think there'll be anything less. The one thing I will say, though, what a testament to these cars and the improvement that has been made with the roll cages in these cars and the way that these cars are designed. For her to smack that wall as hard as she did, and then to be getting out on her own power, and she was ticked off about the fact that she wrecked the car and us not worrying about her having to be shipped off in an ambulance and talking about having headaches and all of these things. What a blessing. What a blessing. And really a testament to the hard work that everyone involved in improving these cars have done over the last couple of years. So that is fantastic to see. And
one thing I forgot to mention is we're going to see some new liveries this weekend.
Yeah.
Second weekend in a row, we're going to be seeing Doug Coletta run a new sponsor, new banner. Well, Mobile One we saw last weekend didn't have as much success as he was hoping for. This weekend, Autodesk jumping in behind board, and Sean Langdon will be running the CMR Top Fuel Dragster. Love that blue Top Fuel Dragster. And also Matt Hagan, his family-owned company coming on board. This really throws me back to 2010, 2009 when he was having these liberties, and such a cool car. I mean, this thing looks pretty cool.
It does. It really does. I like all three of them. And I'm really hoping that Doug can have a little bit more success. One thing we can say, Doug's driving really well. Have they found that low 60, that high 60 tune-up? No, they haven't. But one thing I will commend them on is running your race, taking what the defense gives you, and they're running very consistent low 70s, and they're doing it with ease. So, and with them not being out of the top 10, they're not at the bottom of the top 10. They're just going to keep chipping away at it. And hopefully when we get to the middle of this 4-quarter regular season, they'll start to be able to get a little bit of a charge so they can get up a little bit higher and be a little bit more in striking distance and get in that top 5, top 6 range deal and be in striking distance to be able to make a run to get Dougie a championship.
One driver I'm really looking to see the max out of right now, who I'm really pulling for the most, is Leah Pruett. I really hope we get to see her go some rounds. We actually saw her go some rounds at our last few national events, but it's tough when you have the funny car side of Tony Stewart Racing killing the game. I mean, coming out here, winning, going to finals. She would have loved to have been that first Tony Stewart Racing driver to get a victory, but hey, it is what it is. But Dujunnea, do you think the pressure of all this and just the media around it is kind of, fogging up the lanes, so to speak? I mean, this is a tough sport as it is. It's tough competition, And we were just talking about it. Doug Coletta hasn't had the best year. Sean Langdon hasn't really had the best year. Clay Millican, up and down. So, what is it going to take for Leah Pruett to really get a victory and to be able to, regain her confidence back?
I'm big on consistency. I don't think anybody juggles, because it's one thing about Leah. Leah does a lot of hard work that fans don't see off the racetrack. Getting these sponsors. I mean, no one does the car changes and those beautiful car changes better than Leah Pruett. But having the ability to get these different sponsors for herself, the hard work that goes on off the racetrack. I think right now, is it a little bit driving? Sure. I think over the last couple of races, she has improved. But most importantly, I think with a new crew, we're seeing an offensive line and a core, and a coach, and a crew chief, or you could call him an offensive coordinator, trying to put the pieces together. And it's an offensive coordinator, and Leah's the quarterback, and they're trying to figure things out. You saw some areas where they were able to find a lane, and they found some things that worked in a couple races. And then, we saw here, it was a tough draw too. Some of it's about the draw and who you end up getting. And unfortunately, some of the people that she has drawn are just a little bit more consistent than she is. This weekend will be great, though, because they get 4 passes. And hopefully she can find what she had a couple races ago, where they were able to show off, run some 70s, run some low 70s, and show out. I don't think the pressure is bothering her. I think Leah loves and relishes in the pressure. What I will commend her on is keeping her composure through the difficulties, because Leah is a competitor, and Leah wears her emotions on her sleeve and will let you know in a heartbeat in an interview how she feels. And she's been really, really good about containing those emotions and the expectations, so to speak, because we all know that it's a newly formed team, and, really doing a good job of all of that. And I think in time, as we get going, remember, we're second race into the second quarter of the regular season. I think as we get going, I think this team is going to start showing who they are, because there's no doubt in my mind that I think that Leah can get it done. She's one of the hardest workers out there, and I don't think she's enough credit for that.
Exactly. She came off some great round wins back at the Vegas 4-wide, so I'm sure she's looking at, and she's excited to get back to another 4-wide race, because she could capitalize on this. And like Nicole says here, Leah hustles, and that she does. I'm always interested to see what new routes we're going to see, what new sponsors, because she's brought them. Yes. Doesn't matter, DSR, TSR, she's bringing sponsorship, so we got to praise her for that. And for all you fans watching, make sure to hashtag Everything Nitro giveaway. We're giving away a diecast. If you guys want to win a Kenny Bernstein 124 scale diecast, leave it in the comment section below. Hashtag Everything Nitro giveaway. So that brings us to our last topic, Dujunnea. Sad it has to end, but it always does. Who qualifies number 1 and who wins this weekend's Circle K NHRA 4-wide Nationals at zMAX Dragway? Let's start in Top Fuel, and I'll let you go first.
I'm going with Brittany Force, and here's why.
Qualifies number 1 or wins?
Qualifies number 1, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that she three-peats. She goes back to back to back. Brittany was not happy that she got, bumped out of there by old Steve-O. Okay? They wanted that number 1 spot. I mean, I think they want that number 1 spot every time they touch the track, because I believe that they can do it with ease. Like I said, best car on the premises, period. Until someone proves it that they can do it and set speed records and the things that they do through qualifying and on race day, holla at me. Because I'm going to tell you, it's Brittany Force, and that car is the best car on the premises. I think she has a lot of confidence coming into this race. And that win from Houston is just a thing that can catapult her. She knows she has to only go trace 3 times to get that Wally. And with the conditions that we looking to have, oh man, it favors that Monster Energy drink, Top Fuel Dragster of Brittany Force.
It's hard to go away from that pick, especially last year. What we seen her do at Charlotte. Now, this Bruton Smith facility is one of the best on tour. We always talk about Bruton Smith and the type of facilities he brings to the NHRA Camping World Series. But Brittany Force and David Grubnick know how to set records here. They're just going to go back into their data log. They're going to pull out the numbers. You mentioned it, Dujunnea. 4 qualifying sessions. If we don't see it Friday night, we'll see it Saturday. And we saw Steve last weekend take it from her, that number 1 qualifying spot. But qualifying really doesn't matter when it comes to those two. It's all about championships in their eyes. But I can't disagree with you. I hate to kind of pick Brittany because, heck, but I don't want to be wrong. It will be Brittany qualifying number 1. And that's our funny car. So winning. So, you said you had Brittany winning. Okay.
I'll explain why too.
Okay.
Steve is shook. Every time he see Justin Ashley, all of a sudden he can't seem to find the tree or nothing. Justin goes up there and tattoos him every time. And I understand this is a 4 wide, but I got Brittany going through. So other than maybe Justin Ashley with the lights that he cuts, unless Steve can rally it up and bring out the Cowboy 6 guns, he's shook right now. You go back and look at them boards. He done got by Justin Ashley a couple times this year and tattooed on the tree. So that's why I'm picking Brittany. Just the confidence, and Steve is just getting tripped up that Justin Ashley is his kryptonite right now.
Okay. And I'm going to have to go with a guy we've already talked about today. I believe Josh Hart will win this Charlotte 4-wide Nationals. Hart is a guy that will reach up, that'll grab anybody on the starting line at any given moment. And mind you, this is 4-wide. There's only 3 rounds. In the first 2 rounds, it's the top 2 drivers advancing. Josh Hart will do that. Josh Hart will be in the final round. Coming into that final round, don't know who the other 3 drivers will be in the lane, but Josh Hart has won here last year. It wasn't the 4-wide format. He ended up winning it in the countdown. But that guy jumps up when you least expect it. We didn't expect him to win on that first race in Gainesville of last year in his debut. We didn't expect that.
That's
and we
true.
didn't expect him to be able to repeat that win over there at Charlotte just about 8 or 10 races later. So Josh Hart is my pick. So I have Brittany Force qualifying number 1 and Josh Hart winning on Sunday again in Charlotte. It'll be, if I'm right, it'll be Josh's 3rd NHRA national event win and 2nd at zMAX Dragway.
And I can't say it the way they say it, but I can't doubt Ron Douglas.
Right. Partial team owner of that team. And that tells you right there for Ron Douglas to partner with Josh Hart in forming this race team, how much he has and how much he believes in this guy, Josh Hart. So I'm looking forward to watching qualifying, but you better believe I will keep my eye on Josh Hart all weekend long.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about funny car, Dujunnea. We know 3 guys that are on top of this thing. The rest can giddy up when they're ready, but we know the 3 drivers in funny car right now. Who do you got qualifying number 1 for Sunday?
Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna go way off the beaten path. And I'm not gonna pick the likelihood of what we think or who we think will. I'm gonna say John Force.
Okay.
John, I believe we saw the first quarter of the season. His car had the case of the wobbles. You know, it wanted to do the wobble. It was love to dance. But that car, I believe, is just as fast as Robert Height's car. And in some cases, could be faster. Now, I know people like to talk about how John manipulates the lights by – look, he does what he does and he stages deep. But his reaction times, no matter how you want to slice it or dice it, deep stage or not, have been really good. I think they find a way to get it done. I think those Force cars, I think you'll see Robert Height run some decent numbers. You'll see Hagan do the same. But I think it's going to be John Force that qualifies number 1 here. He's due.
Okay. He is due. He is due for a little bit of success, and he knows how to turn it on as well. I'm sure he'll play a little bit of starting line games, which we encourage, which we love. I love when drivers do that. It's just something we need, and if drivers get upset for it, that's okay. Get upset for it. Let it out. But I'm gonna have to go. It's kind of a long shot too, but I'm gonna go with Cruz Pedregon qualifying number 1. I think they're not gonna underestimate any type of conditions, and that's tough for me to say. Given we're gonna see great conditions this weekend, it's hard not to pick Robert Hight. It's hard not to pick Matt Hagan, but sometimes you could push a little too hard. And who is more consistent when it comes to smooth surfaces and great air temperature? John Collins. So I picked Cruz to qualify number 1 this weekend for some reason.
That's a good pick. I'm not going to go against that because I believe that when it's time, I think they can get that job done. I think they can qualify number 1, especially when the conditions are ripe for it.
I like Nicole's park pick here too. I'm going underdog. Maybe Chad Green's time. You know what?
I can't.
The way he's been running, definitely. That's definitely a contender right there.
I can't.
He's another guy. When we talk about confidence, he's gaining that confidence lap by lap, and we've seen him come over from the pro mod side. He really hasn't touched his pro mod since he's got a mix of this nitro fuel. So it's pretty cool to see him.
Exactly.
And his son, Hunter Green. Shout out to Hunter Green, making his debut at the 4-Wide Nationals and Top Alcohol Dragster. But who we got winning this funny car category, man?
My heart says Cruz Pedregon. I think this is a race that he could win. But you know what? I'm going to go way out on the limb, and I'm going to pick Tim Wilkerson. I think this is the type of race. He's been – with outside of the mistakes that have been made, the car has been running quite well. And if you're ever going to get back on your feet, it's right here where you can come up. No one's looking at you. No one's thinking that you have an opportunity to win this race at all. They're talking about the Hagans. They're talking about the Heights. They're talking about Force. They're talking about Cruz. We all know Tim Wilkerson can tune. Look at what he's doing with helping other guys. They're having great success. And he can't find the success for himself. I think he finds it this weekend. He kind of qualifies somewhere decently, but he's going to come up here and he's going to surprise people.
Right.
That car's going to be it's always very well polished. He's always very well good. I'm taking Wilkie to win this thing here this weekend and jump up and be the surprise winner that no one would have ever seen coming.
All right, I'm going to have to, if history's taught us anything this year, and we heard, us ramble about Matt Hagan, I have to pick Matt Hagan. He's going 2 in a row. He's getting to another final. I'm pretty sure Tim Wilkerson and say a Chad Green car will probably be in that final round as well. But we'll see what happens. That's the fun part about this. We get to debate, give our opinion, and when it comes to life, I mean, people will remember that we said, "Hey, those guys are on it."
I'm going to throw something at you, though. So, in these types of conditions, are always great in qualifying.
Right.
But in eliminations is a different ball game. And sometimes you get by the racetrack because it's such a fine line. I always say that thin line between love and hate. And that hate is the tire smoke. The thing about guys like Chad Green and Tim Wilkerson, slow and steady Eddie. And they can run the power, but they are a little bit on that side of where they're kind of cautious. And usually that cautiousness gets you down the racetrack while the guys with all the power and putting up the big numbers and giving us the big silver dollar eyes got a little pelling to do or a little hazing, and they go driving right around them.
And you're right. When it comes to Sunday eliminations, by the time first round, second round start, I mean, that's 11 o'clock noon, closer to 1:30. They don't start qualifying on Friday and Saturday until the afternoon. So track conditions are always different on Sunday than they are on qualifying, which always gives it that little bit extra, spunk. But you know what's crazy, Dujunnea? We haven't, and this is to touch back on the top fuel side. Can you believe we've gone this whole show and haven't mentioned Antron Brown, haven't mentioned Mike Salinas? Like,
That's true.
we know Top Fuel is stacked, but it's crazy because those guys could jump up and grab number one qualifier. Those guys can jump up and win the national and then win the event. So it's really interesting, you know. And here, the Super Dave, J.R. Todd, exactly, another Toyota driver who is probably as competitive as anybody is out there in Funny Car. He can snag a victory.
He can. You know, what we saw from J.R. Todd when they had that little bit of success that they had, you know, like I said, he's back? No, but I think it's the baby steps that are needed to continue to move forward. And it's early, so again, it's about taking those steps forward and progressing. I think we saw a little bit of progression from them, and we never can doubt JR because he's another guy who's you know, really lightning on the tree. He brings it, gets up on the wheel, and gets it done.
And we haven't even mentioned one of our favorite guys, Spencer Massey. I love Drag Race Central's pick. Top Fuel, Spencer Massey, Funny Car, Chad Green. We got to give Spencer Massey his credit, man. This guy is, every single time he comes out, he's going rounds. He's hole-shotting drivers. He's out qualifying drivers. Whatever this role he is in right now, he's enjoying it. He is loving life, and he's still showing he could drive a race car. He is always fun to watch when he is on the entry list. So, Drag Race Central, you're right, man. Keep an eye out for Spencer Massey this weekend.
Absolutely. He's upset some people this in these times that he's come out. And they have a car that can run with anybody. It's definitely not one that can be overlooked. And he's definitely driving his tail off.
I thought this was pretty funny. Kev for fun, JR Turd, I guess, and then I mean that's funny, but I guess I didn't see it, but that's what Tony Shu called him in the TV booth, huh? I'm gonna have to look into that a little more because that's
I didn't see that one.
And what's up with the Alan Johnson project? Now we expect Alan Johnson to be in the winner's circle by now, right? But you can't hate on the team, and you can't get too negative with Coletta Motorsports just because of how tough Top Fuel is this year. I mean, if Brittany was the first repeat winner, when you look at the winners before that, nobody would have pegged those drivers to win. So it's just been bad matchup after bad matchup, especially for Doug Coletta lately.
I will give you some of the matchup. And Super Dave, you making me go back to the well. If you watch this show, I think I said it here. I've said it other places. I've said it on my podcast. Look, they didn't bring in Alan Johnson to do so. You know, and the thing of it is, early in the season, in instances that they could have gone more rounds, they did not take what the defense was giving them. Case in point, Rob Passy. All you had to do was run a 77, and you went out and didn't even get it off the line. It's the decision making. And look, it is one of drag racing's greatest crew chiefs. But time gets us all. No one escapes Father Time. And to me, in several instances, it is shown that there's a little chink in the armor. And right now, what we've seen from them in this early part of the season, this is not what Coletta Motorsports paid for them to do. You can go I can pick 5 crew chiefs that I would have on my team quicker than you can blink that can do this with their eyes closed. This is not what you paid for. So this is not on Doug, and we know the matchups, but at the end of the day, this is Alan freaking Johnson. You know, this is Jesus.
I think it's Alan really wanting to make a statement early as well, too. Like you mentioned, you know, all he had to do was run 77 back in Arizona to get that round win. we've seen some close races, like him and Tony Schumacher in that first race and Pomona, first round right out of the gate. So I think Alan just really wants to make a statement, and it just hasn't worked yet. We haven't seen the potential of Doug Coletta. All the hot topics and all the, the news feeds were buzzing this year with, wow, Doug Coletta is going to run away with this thing. Wow, him and Alan Johnson, who's going to beat that? But that's going to be another team to watch this weekend because there's going to be great conditions. Doug Coletta could end up being number one qualifier. All it takes is a one good setup to set the platform, to be able to run stellar numbers. And shout out to the Super Dave who made you get into all that. Dujunnea, who brought the worst out of you. So this is actually the first time I've watched the show. I've been getting notifications for it forever. First time tuning in. I'm having fun. Well, thanks, Super Dave. I appreciate you and everybody else who's tuning in. And for those that don't know, because we're almost out of here, drop the hashtag EverythingNitro giveaway in the comments section for your chance to win a 1998 Kenny Bernstein Budweiser diecast. I'll send it to you tomorrow. All I need is your info. So drop those hashtags in if you want your chance to win a diecast. We only have a few minutes left, so get them in, and I'll for sure be getting in touch with the winner shortly. But this has been fun, Dujunnea. One thing about Dujunnea, you guys, I mean, if you haven't downloaded, and I'd never heard of Ghostcast until I've met Dujunnea, but you can listen to all the NotBlandShow, Dujunnea's show over there on Ghostcast. Download the app, type in NotBlandShow, and you're going to get a list of driver interviews, previews, recaps. I'm talking everything. And I only have Ghostcast for one show and one guy, and that's Dujunnea Bland.
Well, I
so
appreciate that. Check
this guy out, man. This guy's the real deal. He's out doing his thing at Gainesville. Every national event he could go to, he's a real deal. That's why I called him the NHRA Insider. We need this guy on Fox. We need this guy on FS1. He needs to be interviewing drivers on the starting line, in the pits. We see a flex of different Fox people from time to time, but I need to see Dujunnea Bland. So we're going to get that going. We're going to get some hashtags or something going on social media because Dujunnea is the man.
Let's go. I'm all for it. Definitely all for it.
This is a pretty funny comment, Kev, for fun. Kev, you're a funny guy. You're a funny guy. We're gonna have you on the show soon. It says Conrad is pissed. He's writing big checks, 0 results.
Hey,
from the outside, it's what it looks like from the outside, but we don't know, the conversations that have been had, and it's hard to hire somebody and win in 1 year. So this could be a year we talk about next year and say, hey, well, they needed that under the rug year to have success. So it'll be interesting.
That's a good point, Andrew. That's a very good point. And that's something I really haven't thought about. So for you stick and ball sports people, how when your team goes and hires a manager or a new coach, there's a new system that's got to be put in place. That you always know there's going to be some type of new system your quarterback has to learn. And usually out of the gate, they're going to bring in some of their guys as well. They're going to filter those guys in to kind of get the way that they want to do things going. And it kind of rubs off on everyone else, and they're able to teach that as they go into the season. I think that's what we're seeing here as well. I'll give Alan a little bit I'll get off his back a little bit, and I'll say this. When you're trying to come over and you're changing something that they've done for a while, and it may be a partial, they may not be doing it fully, or complete Alan Johnson takeover. And now it's a maturation process to try to figure out how things are all going to gel together. What are we going to do and how things are going to work and going forward to find that rhythm or to find that cohesiveness between quarterback, Doug Coletta, and coach, offensive coordinator, Alan Johnson. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. Learning the car. This is not Alan's deal. It's not what they do. There's a lot of different things, and cars react different. You can't just go out here and think that I'm going to take Steve Torrance's tune-up and I'm going to go put that in, Mike Salinas' car and it's going to react the same. All of these cars are different. So I think there's a learning process and a learning curve with that and the team coming together. So again, we're early in the season. I expect them to turn this around. They're starting to consistently run 70s, mid 70s, low 70s. Now it's doing that, and then you build off of that. And you know what? You ain't got to build off of it right now because we're only in the second quarter of this regular season. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish. So we'll see how it goes.
And not that anybody is looking at point standings right now, but if you were to peek, there's a lot of drivers not in that top 10 that really need to start considering getting on the consistent side of the ladder here, because the countdown's going to come before you know it. Look, we're already 5-6 races in to a 22 race season. And I'll tell you what, even in funny car, there's a lot of drivers not in that top 10. And that whole, as long as you go to every national event, you're going to be in the countdown, that doesn't exist anymore. NHRA got plenty of flock for that. They did away with that. Top 10, reset the points after Indy. So better believe there's going to be some big names that we expected to be in the championship hunt, not even make the countdown this season, which is only part of the intensity in the sport.
And look at Clay. I'll be the first to tell you, I've said it many times on my show. I felt like that it was a lateral move. I felt like that Mike Klober was getting it. Now, whether it was what thought Clay or whoever thought was consistent enough on a regular basis, we can argue that. But look at what Jimmo's come in and done. And he made that change back in Gainesville. Why? Because you can't afford to be hanging around 9, 10. Not in this top fuel class, you can't. Not as tight as it is. It's just like Funny Car was last year. And they made the change, and I can't argue the results, no matter how I feel about it, but I cannot argue the results. They have gotten the results. You've seen them making a huge jump since Gainesville. I cannot deny that.
And we're seeing the new wave of talent as well, which is also playing a factor. We talked about Josh Hart. We didn't mention Alex Laughlin. We didn't mention some other younger drivers that are coming up in the category. So there's so much going on. Eyes are pretty much scattered everywhere, but it's what you do in performance and on race day that really matters the most.
Exactly.
But first of all, guys, thank you everybody for tuning in. We're having some fun in the comment section. You know what? The first few shows we did, they weren't live, and I feel like there's too many shows that do live stuff. But after that first interaction on that show, and it's just a lot of fun being able to chat it up with people and get their opinion, because we all have a voice, and as long as we keep paying attention to this sport, the more it'll grow. And if you've never taken anybody to a national event, or if you've never been, get out to one. That's all it takes. Get out to a national event. Show your mother, show your friends, show your cousins. Get them out to a national event, because it'll be a yearly routine when it's all said and done. But thank you every single person who was in the show tonight, chiming in. We have a couple entries, so I'm going to reach out to the winner. I'm going to do a random selection. I got them here. This ain't the last giveaway we're going to do, so we're going to do some more of this stuff. But thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm Andrew Morales, Dujunnea Bland. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Later.